This is Lesson 2. One of the great new features for designers that you will find in CS5 is improved text capabilities with the new TLF text engine. The TLF text engine, which is now the default inside of Flash CS5, allows us to do more with typography. As a matter of fact, these are things you're probably used to doing in other Adobe programs such as InDesign or Illustrator. TLF text now adds capabilities for multi-column text, threading text across multiple text boxes within your movie, just a lot more control over how text appears and works inside of your movie. So let's take a look. To get started, open up the FLO2 underscore video.fla lesson file. And if we take a look at the stage, we'll see there's not a lot going on graphically here, and that's okay. We want to really just focus on the capabilities of text for this lesson. To get started, go over to the right side of your workspace and go ahead and select the text tool from the tools panel on the right. And you'll see as soon as you do, the property inspector changes to reflect all of the text options that you have when using this tool. Now, one thing you may notice that's a little bit different is at the very top of the property inspector, we now have a drop-down menu which allows us to choose between TLF text and classic text. Classic text is actually the name for text capabilities or the text engine of Flash version CS4 and earlier. So there may be cases where you want to use this to be able to be compatible with, let's say, a movie that you're publishing for an older version of Flash Player, or you're working in a file created in an older version of Flash. But for this lesson, we're going to leave the default, which is the new TLF text engine. Now, what you may notice right away is there's just a lot more options over here, and one of those options is actually orientation, so we could set the text horizontal or vertical. And we're going to see a little bit more once we start actually creating some text on the stage. So to get started, we're going to go over to the left-hand side of the stage. And using these guides for a little bit of assistance, we're going to click and drag right here where these two guides meet. And we're going to draw a text box within these guides, just like this, as close as we can, and release. Now go ahead and press the escape key. What this does is this actually exits the text box and it returns you back to the text tool. Now, if we take a look at the text box that was created, we'll see there's a couple of interesting things going on here. We see the normal bounding box handles in the corners here, which we can use to resize this if we need to. So for instance, if I want to get a little bit closer to this guide, I can just click and drag this bounding box handle at the bottom. Same goes for the right-hand side, and feel free to do this if for some reason you didn't get it as close to the guides as you would have liked to. Now, another thing you're going to notice is these two large boxes in the upper left-hand and lower right-hand corners of your text box. These are what we refer to as the in and out ports, and these basically control the flow of text in and out of this text box. Now that TLF text gives us the ability to thread or flow text across multiple text boxes, we can use these if we have too much text in this box, and we can actually take this out port and flow it into another text box. Not sure what we're talking about yet? Well, let's go ahead and put some text in here to actually see what it is that this does. So what we're going to do is we'd like to work with a large amount of text so that we purposely cause this text box to overflow. And to do that, we're going to go ahead to the File menu and choose Open. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go over and navigate to our lesson folder where you got your FLA file. And you'll actually see there's a text file there called lipsum.txt, and this contains some lipsum text or placeholder text that we can paste into this box. Now, by default, Flash doesn't normally open text files, so what we're going to do is, if we're on the Mac, we can enable all formats, or all files in this case, and you'll see this makes this available. And you should have the same capability on Windows to enable all file formats so that you actually can select this and open it. So we're going to go ahead and choose Open. And this is basically a plain text file, so this will open up as its own tab inside of Flash. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to do Command A or Control A if you're on Windows, and we're going to click this tab to return back to our movie. Go ahead and click inside of the text box that you created, and this makes the cursor active again, and then just go ahead and choose Command V or Control V to paste this text inside the box. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Control A to select all of the text because right now I have to set a color. And from the right-hand side, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and make sure that you have a basic font set, for instance, Arial, like I do here. We're going to go ahead and set the font size to 18. And we're going to go choose black as the color and make sure, of course, that the opacity is all the way up. Now go ahead and press the escape key to exit this, and what you're going to notice is that obviously we have way too much text for this box. We have probably about a few paragraphs there. So what you're going to see is the text gets cut off at the bottom of this text box, but what we do see is that we have this little red plus sign. It's a little harder to see here, but if we bring this out, you'll see this red plus sign indicates what we call an overrun. And what that overrun means is that there's simply too much text for this box. So what we need to do is either live with the fact that we can't see it, or what's a better idea is to actually flow it into a different text box on the stage so that we could read it. So I'm going to just return this back to its original size here. And what we're going to do is let's go ahead and press the escape key to exit this text box and go back to our text tool. And on the right-hand side, we're going to draw a text box that fills in this area outlined by the guides here. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag and try my best to create a text box that fits right within these guides. And I think I did pretty good. So now what we're going to do is, rather than paste or type anything in this box, we're going to leave this here so it can catch the extra text from the box we created over on the left. So again, press the escape key to exit this box and click within the previous text box. And what you're going to do is bring your cursor down over to this overrun. And you'll see as soon as you move your pointer over the overrun box here, or the output, that you get this black arrow. Go ahead and click on that. Now if you move your cursor around, what you're going to see is that you're actually carrying the overrun from that other text box. So if we click within another text box, like the one we have on the right, it will actually marry the first text box to the second and flow the text that we can't see into this box. So what we're going to do here is you can click anywhere within this text area on the second box and watch what happens. So this is pretty cool. We now see that where this text box left off, this one picks up. And there's actually a line drawn from the output of the previous text box to the import of the new one to indicate that they are threaded together, or that they're flowing text from one to the other. So again, if you work with programs such as InDesign or Illustrator, you're probably used to seeing this. And this is a nice addition to Flash because we can actually create some nicer typography within our movies and do some more complex type layouts that we could not do before. But we're actually not quite done yet. What we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and again press the escape key. And if we click within the right-hand text box to make that active like this, and we go over to the property inspector on the right, we'll see a ton more options appear for this text box. We see things like the advanced character options, which we can go ahead and collapse. See paragraph options, which are things we've seen before. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to minimize that for a second. We're going to go down to the container and flow options, which is brand new. Now, what this allows us to do is something that I'm sure many of us have wanted to do in Flash for quite a few versions now, which is create multi-column text. So rather than this text just flowing like this straight down, what we may want to do is split it into two nice, neat columns. So what we're going to do is we're going to locate this columns option here, and you'll see that you can move over and click and drag, or you can simply click on it and enter the number of columns that you like. And in this case, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to type the number 2 in there and then hit my enter or return key. And watch what happens there. It breaks up our text into two nice columns. Now, if you'd like to control the gap in between these two columns, you can actually do that as well. And you'll see that as soon as you set more than a single column, directly to the right, we have the column gap setting, which by default is 20 pixels. So you can either increase this or you can make it slightly less, whatever it is that looks best in your movie. So here, I'm actually going to increase it a bit to make the effect more dramatic to 30 pixels just by entering 30. And you'll see that it increases the gap between those two columns. Now, what else can we do? Well, if you look right below, you'll see that we actually have padding options, and this allows us to dial in a padding or space from the edge of the box on either of the four sides that we have: left, top, right, and bottom. So right here, what I'm going to do is on the top, I'm going to set a padding of 10 pixels, and you'll see the effect that has is that it actually creates a little bit of breathing room between the top of the text box and the top of the text. Now, you can set these individually if you'd like, or what you can do is link them together by clicking this little chain link icon here. What that does is that locks all the values together. So if you enter one value, it automatically enters it for the remaining four. Now, what else can we do to enhance this? Well, right below, we have the paint bucket and what appears to be the stroke. color indicators. If we click on the paint bucket, what happens? Let's say we want to set a color here. We'll see it actually allows us to set a background color to this text frame, which is pretty cool, which means we don't have to take a different drawing tool and draw a colored box behind it. You can do the same over here for a stroke. If I'd like to set a defined border or stroke around my text box, I can do that as well, and I can even set a point size for that to make it a little bit thicker. So as you see here, the new TLF text engine in Flash gives us a ton of new capabilities that we didn't have in previous versions of Flash, but we may have been used to enjoying in other design programs. So now this should give you lots more capabilities and lots more choices when it comes to creating or formatting large amounts of text within your Flash movie. Now, another side note is the best part about TLF text is that it's fully dynamic. You may remember in previous versions of Flash with the old text engine, we were able to create dynamic text boxes, which means that we could use techniques in ActionScript to populate those text boxes real time. Well, the nice thing is that TLF text by default is always dynamic. So we can take advantage of these same capabilities, but we can also go ahead and have the power to plug in text at different points in our movie with a little bit of help from ActionScript.